good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another Talk Architecture podcast episode, and I'm your host, Naziati Muhammad Yaqub. The topic for today's discussion is a reflection on campus design. May it be an institution or a university or college. However, I'm going to talk about my experience as a full-time academic in charge of a design thesis studio unit, the experiences that I had when I was employed at the university, the last university that I worked in. And there is this thought process going on in my mind after visiting the Universiti Teknologi Petronas campus, which is an award-winning campus designed by Sir Norman Foster as the international architect collaborator with group design partnership, the local architect that is in charge of getting the buildings or the campus to be built. This was some time ago when I visited, the first time when I visited, and I was kind of overwhelmed by the design. At that time, it was only the main block in the middle. Subsequently, there are other blocks being created around. I don't know how big the campus is, but it's kind of big. And taking the opportunity to discuss this in light of previous studio programs that I had. The interesting thing is that if you talk about group design partnership, I am thinking about the partner director, Mr. Kamil Merican, and an architect colleague who is, I think, also a director in the company, architect Loke Chew Ping. I've always collaborated with architect Loke and also Kamil Merican, who is a visiting tutor to the university that I taught. There was a particular year where Kevin Matlow had a hiatus, so I did a collaboration program. I've forgotten how many students, maybe there were about 14 students involved, I think, in that particular unit. And we focus on designs of projects in the Pudu area in Kuala Lumpur. But when I discussed with Kamil about the possibility of doing another collaboration the following year, he mentioned something like a campus for a university in Taiping. So we're looking at Tronoh, Perak, and Taiping, Perak. And we're looking at GDP collaborated with Norman Foster, with UTP design. And you know the thing about university campuses, the excitement is to do the master planning, the cluster of buildings, the huge scheme, not necessarily just the detailed design or the architecture. That's something else. So I get this feeling now because at one point, the last design thesis project I managed to collaborate to the extent of doing a master plan was the alternative master plan of the Universiti Malaya campus with Kevin Matlow. So this is interesting that Kevin Matlow, who used to work with Kamil Merican and GDP, interested in a lot of this campus design. And I'm only thinking it from this perspective, and I'm sure architects or academics out there who does this a lot would probably know what to think about in terms of why this is important in architecture education. But for me, it is also a glory project for the architects, or it is something that you can invest your whole conceptual ideas in, because it's a institutional project. It's to do with learning, scholarship. It's to do with academics. To do with, something that you can contain with, and it's more exciting when it is on an open site where you can impose your own unique design. That's what I'm thinking of. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe this is just for a debate, a dialogue out there. So what happened was I didn't do that Taiping campus design with GDP because Kevin Matlow came back, and we did we divided the studio into two groups, one doing the Bukit Ceylon area, or Bukit Bintang area there, near Jalan Alor. And then we did the Kampung Baru area, nearer towards Chow Kit and the historical core. So, all in all, that we managed to actually attempted to do a master planning of the University of Malaya campus, which is like not an open site. You have to build within the campus. So that design is to do with more of adaptive reuse, and maybe of, some of the projects were reusing existing building parts, and some of the project was building on top of the existing buildings, and some of it demolishing some parts of the buildings and trying to connect the different spaces with each other. We didn't really got to the point where we were looking at the blocks. Well, I didn't. The students had a different tutor for first semester and the second semester, but what I had experienced was to assist with the master planning and to justify it strongly so that there will not be any discussion on the master planning thereafter. And the student could concentrate on those interconnections and building between the blocks and around the master planning. The different projects exist from the master planning. So why I'm discussing this is because there are two different approaches. How we choose a site, what a university, is it an urban site, is it an open site, or greenfield, shall we say, rather than a brownfield site, as they say in the industry. So it just occurred to me because I had a visit today, of the Universiti Teknologi Petronas. And I was kind of amazed about the detailing there. And I suggested to the person accompanying me that only GDP could pull this off, and that close collaboration with Norman Foster is because there are partners in GDP who used to work with Norman Foster as well. That's not to say that they're the only ones who worked with Norman Foster. And it's not to say that Norman Foster doesn't have any resident architects or architects from the London office to come to Kuala Lumpur at that particular time. It is to say that the interest in institutional building like GDP has with this building also resulted in GDP doing many other campus design that I know of. Maybe it escaped me, the others, but I'm recalling Universiti Teknologi Mara buildings. And architects could explore their ideas to the hilt with a good, uh, what do you call it? The opportunity to do that because of the budget given to them at Universiti Teknologi Petronas. They could explore the design and try to do a good design out of it. Subsequently, I see some detailing that was being done as much as they could to control the product or the effects of it on site, but there is still some left to be desired. As I looked at the detailing just now when I was going around, that's not working that well. And I was looking at, it should be clean and designed a certain way that you have the clean lines and minimize from one plane to another plane. It shouldn't be like there's dirt, or it doesn't just 90 degrees like that. There's an edge to it, a shadow to it, if you know what I mean. So, but it's a treat all in all going through to see the ones that did pull off, the details that were delightful to the eye, and even in the most mundane of things, like the lens the edge of where the natural elements, like the plants with the pavement, some edgings of perhaps the I-beam or C-channel, that finishes off the detail was kind of a delight. And the pavement patterns. I think I was thinking about this, students using the micro mobility scooters up and down and walking up and down, jumping around, or being happy and doing their studies, walking to and fro from the classrooms and laboratories to their other buildings behind, which is probably their accommodation, and going about in their ways. There's a lot of walking to be done. What was interesting is an ex-student of mine who was involved in an event that was happening at the hall and the open space and auditorium. She was remarking about how big a scale the building is. And I was at the auditorium, and I managed to get on stage through a platform lift at the back. But the platform lift was an add-on later. So there wasn't an accessible route to the backstage. There's none from the front of the stage. And I see that also in Universiti Malaya, where I was working at, where everything's add-on when it comes to accessibility. But the fact that I managed to go on stage from the back made me be able to be included. But of course, if you talk about universal design, the true universal design, equitable in use, is important, where everyone comes from the same approach to go on the stage. Like Koshan Theatre in Hong Kong, which I believe had 2 ramps going on by the side, in a much smaller building. This human scale or very large scale that is being played with the 2 main areas of the library and the auditorium, with the amphitheater in the middle, going down to the dining area below, is grand. It is the grand gesture. It is intentional. And one could get lost, so one have problem finding one's way to find the lifts, for example, if it was not known by someone else, to me, I would struggle to find where the lift is, because there's a minimum amount of signs going on, because you don't want it to ruin the aesthetics. And this itself was a study made by my own supervisor when I did my PhD in the UK. He was studying about what is more important, aesthetics or accessibility. I did a similar study as well with regard to historic listed public buildings, yes. So I was doing that, and the minimum amount of information would be in order, because it will spoil the architectural significance of the building or historical significance of the building. In this case, this is a new building, and that universal design is not being the central guiding design principle for this building, which could help it greatly and would make it much more functional rather than more a form. So this is the balancing act that most architects have to deal with when they design buildings. So this is just a reflection, really, a quick reflection on the campus design and some sort of an architectural review that I'd like to share with you. My experience working with a set of architects that are out there practicing and having works that are award-winning and so on, and a delight to having a Norman Foster building in somewhere, not in the wilderness, but somewhere out of Kuala Lumpur, away from the city center. Suddenly, the open views is a delight. Of course, Norman Foster wanted to do almost like shelter and open, like the principle of tropical architecture that others before had referred to when they were to design things in the tropical climate. So, yes, it was a good workout, walking for me, wheeling from one end to another. I feel satisfied that I visited a Norman Foster building. Yeah, I'm still a fan, even though there's criticism abound. And a good attempt for GDP to have done it as good as they could. Thank you very much for listening.